Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Future of Biz Tech. I am your host, JC Granger, and I have another fantastic guest with me on the show today. And listen, if you end up loving this episode, please show your love and appreciation by following this podcast wherever you're listening, and be sure to give it a 5-star review, something nice with some comments on there, because that is how other techies like you and I find cool podcasts like this. And today I have the absolute pleasure of interviewing the CEO and co-founder of Eduflow, David Wynn. David, thank you so much for coming on the show. Tell the audience a little bit about yourself and what it is that Eduflow does.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Yes, a bit about myself, a bit about the company. So myself, I'm a programmer, I guess, since I was a kid. I've always loved to fiddle with computers and write code. So I thought I was going to be a software developer. But during my studies, I switched to math. I did a PhD, so it looked like I was becoming a researcher. But during my PhD, I started teaching, and the course I was teaching got too large basically for me to handle. I had 150 students submitting work every week that I had to grade, and I don't know, 40 hours of grading every week didn't sound like super appealing. So the mathematician in me came out and was like, I wonder if there's like a scalable solution to this. So I ended up coding up this peer feedback product for myself, essentially, where the students would grade each other's work, and then I didn't have to do it. And that sounded pretty good to me, and my supervisor liked it. So he convinced me to sell a license to the department. And that's how this company started, actually as a different company. Back then it was called PeerGrade, and it was a peer-to-peer feedback product. 7 years later, it's now called Eduflow, and it's a learning platform. So there's a lot of things happen in that time period, but basically we raised some money, we learned a lot of things about our product and our users, and decided to go for an even bigger opportunity. So Eduflow is a platform to build online courses that are active and collaborative, so where people do something and learn together with others. So a lot of it is stuff we borrowed from the PeerGrade product, and a lot of it is new things.
Have you found, did you find a spike in the need for your services with all the COVID stuff over the last couple of years, or has it been more or less relevant and useful, I guess is my point?
It's definitely not been negative for us, right? Like online learning has become a mandatory part of everybody's life. Students are all at home, companies are remote. It's been wind in our backs, I think. So in the big scheme of things, it's been very positive. And then on the other side, like when a crisis hits and everybody panics, they have a tendency to go for the established players, right? You don't experiment in the middle of a pandemic. So yeah. I think the big players had a lot more wind in their back, but we've seen a lot more like kind of respect for online learning. And I think now is actually the best time. Like now people have established new roles and rules and processes, and they're like, okay, we're over the pandemic, but we're still going to be at home. So let's try to do it well now, not just survive.
So what is the main usage of your platform? Like, can you visualize it for the audience of like, if they were to log in, like who are they? Who's your main clientele specifically, like actually users that are using it? And what is their experience? What are they mostly going on there to do?
It's actually a really hard question to answer for me, because our user base is extremely broad, right? So we have everything from middle school teachers using it to teach history to Google and Accenture doing corporate training. We have sales training, we have onboarding, we have compliance training, we have university courses, we have everything. So it's hard for me to kind of pinpoint the perfect user in that sense, but if you want to imagine it, I think a lot of people are familiar with course platforms like Coursera and so on, where you log into a course. In the course, there's some activities you have to go through to complete the course. It's kind of how Eduflow looks as well. And then basically the people we cater to are people who teach with more than just videos and quizzes. If your whole course is just 10 videos, put them on YouTube, right? That's fine. But if your course requires that people do something, write something, think a little bit deeper, talk to each other, then Eduflow is probably a better fit. So I guess a good example would be sales training, right? Like the best way to learn to sell is to sell. So you have to like actually do the pitch. You can't just read more and more blog posts about how to do a good pitch. You have to try it. So in Eduflow, you could record a pitch on like a live video thing, and then other people could give you feedback on that pitch inside Eduflow. So I think sales training is a good example of a good fit for the product.
Okay. And then, I mean, I'm a marketing guy, right? By nature. So I always have to ask the question, what kind of marketing are you doing that's getting your brand, out there? I mean, you're on a podcast, right? That's one. Great. So we're doing this. So we know PR is part of it. What else are you guys doing on a day-to-day basis to tell people about Eduflow?
I think we're kind of non-standard on the marketing side, honestly. So most of our growth is purely word of mouth, which is fine. It's good, but it's also hard to control and hard to boost, right? So it's a bit tricky. We don't really run any ads. We do a bit of content marketing, so we write blog posts, but the main thing we're focusing on right now is actually producing courses as content. So we have a course platform, right? And we have a profile of who could a buyer of Eduflow be. So it could be someone with the title instructional designer, for example. So what we do is we build courses for instructional designers. We let them enroll for free, and then we host the course on Eduflow. So when they take this course, then they get to talk to us. They get to experience the product as a learner, and they get to hear a bit about what Eduflow is as part of the course. And then afterwards, they've seen it, they've experienced it, they know about it. They think we're good guys that give away free courses. So that's actually our biggest marketing play right now. We call it Eduflow Academy.
Yeah, that's smart. I know HubSpot has that whole academy side. If you're a SaaS, having the educational side to something that you can help with is a big deal. I know multiple very successful SaaS companies that do that model. So that's actually pretty smart. I'm glad you guys do that. And it's helpful for the people who want it, right? I mean, having a free education on there helps them, and then it helps solidify your brand as well. So that's very cool.
And I think I'm tired of these blog posts where I read a blog post and then they're like, oh, do you want to download this 5-page PDF? You just have to give us your email to get the PDF. And I'm like, that's not how PDFs work. I can just download that PDF. You're putting me on a list, right? And that's fair enough. But it doesn't feel very legitimate. But if I enroll in a free course on a course platform, I'm like, I probably have to give my email to enroll in this course anyways, right? So it feels higher value. It feels more legitimate to ask for an email. Yeah. So people are very willing to give away their emails to get a whole free course. And then I guess the extra benefit for us compared to HubSpot Academy is that our product is actually a course product, right? So courses are such a good fit for us because it's the only thing we want to show them is the actual course. It doesn't matter what the course is about, honestly. It's just take a course with us and then we're happy.
Yeah, no, listen, I'm a marketer, so I get the whole gated content thing, but your version is better. It just, it takes a lot more work, right? I mean, I think the reason why you see the name and email for a PDF is that's far less work than building a whole free course, but for the people who put in the work, they usually get the bigger benefit.
I actually made a few courses very quickly because I had a couple blog posts doing extremely well on SEO, thousands of clicks a week on Google organic. And I was like, what do I do with these blog posts? What do I actually do as a CTA? And I was like, what if I just spend an hour or two taking the content in that blog post, chopping it up and making it into a course? So I did that in an hour and a half. And then I had a course that was it's pretty rough. It's basically just a blog post in a reshuffled way with a bit of there's the discussion activity to say what did you learn from this and so on. And here we have a piece of a content that actually had meaningful CTA on the blog post.
It's smart though too. I mean, to repurpose old content and modernize it and then push that out. And again, it's free. I mean, it's not like you charge $1,000 for the course. You can give them enough to where they can, if they put in the work, they can do the work themselves, or they could be part of the software. So again, smart marketing ploy. Coming from a veteran marketer, I like it. I like what you're doing. But the podcast being the future of BizTech, we're going to talk about the future for a second here. So two-part question. I'll give you the first part first. Where do you see Eduflow going in the next 6 months to a year? What are some cool features coming down on your roadmap that my listeners can get kind of the first scoop on?
Yeah. So I think today we categorize ourselves kind of like a learning management system. It's kind of like an exotic term, right? But it's like a place to manage your learning. most people, when they build a learning management system, they start with all the important administrative work, like how to enroll people in courses in the right way and a course library and managing the institution. We built none of that because we started with a peer feedback tool that kind of came in from the side. So we have a platform today where the course experience is extremely good, like the learning experience is very good. There's a little bit of lack on the institutional administration side, like compared to some of the bigger players in the market. So a lot of our roadmap right now is to try and kind of fix that and build all the stuff you need if you have 10,000 or 100,000 people in your organization that you need to manage. That sounds pretty boring, but the way we're approaching it is to try to build a piece of software that's very, very flexible and kind of has some of these modern ideas that you know from Zapier, for example, right? So you have these like no-code tools today where you can connect other tools together. Like if this happens in this tool, then do this thing over in that tool. Basically, one of the things we're building into Eduflow right now is that part. So instead of building 100 different features in Eduflow to do different things, if other things happen, we're building in like an automation system where you can say, if a participant joins my institution, then enroll them in this course. Or if a person completes this activity in this course, then give them this property and add them to this other course. So you can basically set up your own rules and workflows, which is our code name for it right now, to set up this whole automated institution that everything just runs on its own. And we have to like build the programming language basically that people will build these automations in, which is like a super tricky task. But hopefully once we do that, then it will just give users 1,000 features we never thought about building because they'll be able to like connect the building blocks on their own. So it's called to the way Eduflow works in general, is that it's all very modular. It's all very building block style tool where you connect different things and add them on top of each other to get what you want.
Very cool. All right, well then let's go to part 2 of the question, which is, where do you see the industry that you're in going, an online training industry in general, in the next, 5 years or so, in regards to either technology that's on the horizon or legislation? I don't know. Where do you see you and all your competitors going in the next 5 years?
It's a good question, right? Online training has been around for like a lot of years by now. People always think of it as like, oh, it's totally new. It's not totally new, right? It's been like 40 years. So what's happened recently, I guess, is that the internet as a whole, we've gotten to a place where content is abundant, right? There's so much content. So people who teach online, they can't just have more videos than the next guy, right? It's not going to be enough to have better content because YouTube has infinite content and it's good. So if you want to sell a course or you want to attract people to your courses, you need to offer them something more. And people are attacking this problem from different angles, right? Some people are talking about communities, like how to build communities around the courses. Some people are talking about collaborative learning and active learning, like we are. A lot of people use the word cohort-based courses these days, where you take the course together with others. It's still the same course, but now there's like this feeling of a group, you're doing it together, some social motivation. And I think all those ideas, I don't know if they're here to stay forever, but right now they're here and they won't die for now at least. So I think that's a big part of it. Then I think learning technology is not the fastest moving technology all the time. It's a little bit old school somewhat still. So there's a lot of potential for just making more slick technology solutions, especially when it comes around integrating products with each other. If you run a course today, you probably use a handful at least of different learning products, and they don't play together very nicely, unfortunately. So I think there's a lot of potential in integrating and embedding things in a very neat way so the user can have a very good experience, but actually be using multiple products as part of the course.
Well, I see that. I also see, I feel like machine learning and some AI could take a place too, because like you're talking about, you have your workflows and you're setting those. I think it'd be really cool if one day the system can learn enough about the process where it can decide where to put people, right? Where it can actually start giving insights to the managers as to who is better suited maybe for certain positions. How well did they do on the testing? How fast did they get through it? Things like that, right? I feel like there's an AI component somewhere in there one day for online training, which I think could be really useful. So I always like thinking about, like what's coming down, right? I geek out on that future stuff, right? Go figure, future biz tech podcast. Let me ask you a question.
I did a PhD in machine learning, right? So I think a lot about AI and how it's going to affect us. And it's funny, right? When I talk to people about online learning, they always expect me to be the bullish guy when it comes to AI and say like, oh, it's going to take over everything. I think I'm the most kind of conservative guy in the whole AI and learning group. I think most products probably don't need AI. They should probably just like forget about it and build a better onboarding experience, because that's going to make them more rich. But it does sound cool when the customers ask like, do you have AI? Yeah, we have like super advanced AI, and we don't, right? It's just we just sort the things by reviews, like, and then everything's happy. Like you can just call it AI, but it's just counting and sorting is like what 90% of the companies do. I do think there are places where AI will make a massive impact in online learning, but most companies probably just do it to sound cool, unfortunately.
Yeah. I mean, humans, we spend a lot of time thinking about AI, and I think we're okay until AI starts spending a lot of time thinking about us. Then we're in trouble, right?
It's just a matter of time. It's just a matter of time.
Let me ask you, what this is a personal question here. What did you want to do when you grew up? Like when you were a kid, right? Like what was your dream job or career? And then was it this, or how did it get here?
It was definitely not an edtech CEO, that's for sure. I wanted to make games, right? I like the computers.
Not too far off.
Games.
Not too far off, man. Yeah.
It's not too bad, right? So I did start, when I started programming, I started making games. And I think it's the gateway drug to programming is building your own game, right? It's like, oh, I can make my own game. And then I think I even started university wanting to be a software/game developer. And I did build games, right? But then, I don't know, it got ruined. I think I realized, so I was a good programmer, right? In my bachelor's degree, I was already a programmer since I was a small kid. So I think I realized that I could take all the programming courses and I could do well, but I could also take all the math courses instead, which I did not like, and I kind of sucked at math, but I'll still be okay at programming, but then I could learn something new. So I switched to math, and then I think that kind of pulled me into machine learning eventually. So it's all accidents after accident, right? And then I ended up going away from the games, and now, I don't know, I still kind of miss the games, but I never played
in your future, maybe like, maybe one day after you exit, you see yourself taking all your winnings and going back into games, back to your.
I have some kids now. I hope they'll grow up and start building their own games. I would love that. That'd be so fun.
Or even making a cool game like just for your kids, right? Like
that's the dream, right?
Special. That'd be pretty special. That's awesome. Well, listen, how can people reach you, or directly if they've got maybe higher end deals they want to do, and then how can they reach the company itself?
You can always reach me on I'm easy to reach, right? But like david@eduflow.com is the easiest way. LinkedIn, Twitter, Google my name. It's fairly uniquely named, I think, which is nice. So I shouldn't be too hard to find, and I put my email on everywhere. So like, that's okay. I get a lot of spam, but I go through it.
Inbox zero at some point. Get an assistant, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. Well, listen, for everyone out there listening again, if you liked what you heard today, be sure to subscribe to this podcast. Give it that 5 stars we talked about. Put some cool comments so other techies like us can enjoy it and learn all the cool, amazing, new, helpful B2B softwares that are on the market today. And listen, David, I just want to thank you so much for being on the show. I think it's cool what you're doing. That workflow style, online education, training, very, very useful in today's B2B economy, especially when most people are working from home and they're not going to have a lot of that, as much as that in-person training. This is kind of the new normal. I think a lot of people are going to be staying home on a high percentage. So I wish you the best of luck, and thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Awesome.